Laura always believed her marriage to Charles was solid. They were a couple admired by everyone, known for their deep connection and love. Charles, a man of strong character, had a best friend, James, who was like a brother to him. From the beginning of their relationship, Laura had never suspected that their friendship could become a threat to her happiness. In the months following the wedding, Laura and James began spending more time together. James was charismatic and entertaining, always making jokes that brought laughter to Laura. Their friendship started to intensify, and she noticed a different connection between them. It was a chemistry that seemed to go beyond friendship, but Laura tried to ignore these feelings, convinced they were part of a healthy, harmless bond. One evening, at a party at a friend's house, the atmosphere was light and lively. Laura and James found themselves on the balcony, away from the noise of the party. Their conversation flowed naturally, filled with laughter and confidences. After a few drinks, something shifted in the air. James' gaze became intense, almost hypnotic. In a moment of impulse, they kissed. The kiss was sweet and unexpected. Laura quickly pulled away, shocked at what had happened. She knew she had crossed a dangerous line and immediately felt the weight of guilt. In the days following the kiss, Laura couldn't stop thinking about James. The attraction grew like an uncontrollable flame within her. The innocent kiss had ignited a burning desire that seemed impossible to extinguish. Their meetings became more frequent and clandestine. Every time Charles left for work or met up with friends, Laura found a way to meet James. They laughed together, shared secrets, and the tension between them grew with every moment. Laura began justifying her actions to herself. It's just a kiss, she thought. But the truth was that she was becoming more and more entangled with James. Their conversations became more intimate. They talked about their dreams and fears, revealing parts of themselves that even Charles didn't know. James was attentive and understanding, qualities Laura began to value more than she should. Their secret outings became a routine, furtive lunches during work hours, secret messages, and knowing glances when they were with Charles. Every moment shared with James was charged with emotion and suppressed desire. Laura knew she was in the wrong, but the adrenaline of betrayal made everything even more thrilling. The relationship between Laura and James quickly escalated into something far more intense. They began meeting in discreet places, quiet cafes, secluded parks, where they could enjoy each other's company without fear of being caught. One sunny afternoon at a park, as they walked together, James took Laura's hand, and she felt butterflies in her stomach. It was like living a forbidden romance from a movie. The tension between the two culminated in a passionate encounter at a discreet hotel in the city. The thrill of living something forbidden was electrifying. They gave in to their passion without thinking about the consequences. To Laura, that moment felt like everything she wanted: freedom, excitement, and an intense connection with someone who seemed to understand her insecurities. Meanwhile, Charles continued his daily routine, unsuspecting of what was happening in the shadows of his marriage. He fully trusted James and believed his wife was happy by his side. Charles often spoke about how much he appreciated his friendship with James. They had been inseparable since childhood, and that unshakable trust was a cornerstone of their relationship. Laura tried to act normal around Charles. She smiled at him during dinners and shared happy moments as any couple would. But inside, she struggled with the growing guilt of betraying not only her husband but also his best friend. One fateful afternoon changed everything when Charles decided to come home early from work to surprise Laura with flowers and prepare a romantic dinner for her. He wanted to show how much he cared and valued their relationship. However, as he opened the front door, Charles felt an odd sense of unease upon noticing the bedroom door slightly ajar and muffled whispers coming from inside. Laura's heart raced when she heard the key in the door. In a moment of sheer panic, she tried to hide James in the bedroom, but he had already stepped out to greet Charles before she could act. The expression on Charles's face quickly shifted from surprise to confusion as he saw the two of them together in the living room. "What's going on here?" Charles demanded, his voice laced with disbelief and pain. Laura tried to explain the inexplicable. Her words faltered as her mind scrambled to find an adequate justification for her treacherous act. Charles looked at her with eyes full of sorrow and anger as he realized the truth. Not only had his wife betrayed his trust, but so had his best friend. The argument quickly turned into an explosive confrontation. Harsh words were exchanged, accusations flew like sharp arrows between the three of them. Charles felt betrayed not only by the wife he deeply loved but also by the friend he had always considered loyal. The pain in his eyes was palpable as he struggled to process the devastating reality before him. Laura stood frozen for what felt like an eternity as emotions swirled around her. Anger, guilt, and despair consumed her. She wanted to scream to Charles about how it had all begun, how the kiss had been an impulsive mistake, but she knew that wouldn't justify her actions or lessen his pain. After the explosive confrontation, Charles decided he needed time away from Laura and James to process everything that had happened. He left without looking back, leaving Laura alone in the house with her turbulent emotions and deep regrets. Laura lingered there, reflecting on her choices and the devastating consequences of her impulsive action. The betrayal hadn't just destroyed her marriage, it had also shattered the friendship between Charles and James. The house now felt empty and silent without the laughter and lively conversations that once filled it. In the days following Charles's departure, Laura faced an overwhelming loneliness. She realized that the fleeting moments of pleasure with James could never compensate for the pain caused by the betrayal. Every memory of the once innocent kiss was now cloaked in sadness and regret. Laura learned the hard way that human relationships are complex and fragile. Trust is a fundamental pillar in any relationship. Once broken, it can be nearly impossible to rebuild. She now lived with the consequences of her decisions and the bitter reality of having lost not only her beloved husband but also a dear friend. As time passed, Laura began to gain a deeper understanding of her feelings and the reasons behind the poor choices she had made. She reflected on how the search for something exciting had led to the destruction of what truly mattered in life: genuine love and friendship. James also faced his own consequences after the confrontation. He lost not only a lover but also a close friend, someone with whom he had shared so many important moments over the years. Their friendship was irreparably damaged by mutual betrayal, and both were acutely aware of that as they tried to move forward from the painful experience. Life continued for all those involved in this tragic story. Charles threw himself into work as a way to cope with his emotional pain while trying to rebuild his life without Laura. He spent long hours at the office or out with old friends, attempting to forget the suffering caused by his wife's and best friend's betrayal. Laura sought support through therapy. She wanted to understand why she had made such destructive choices in her search for emotional validation outside her marriage. The sessions were difficult, filled with tears, but essential in helping her confront her inner fears about commitment and true love. James tried to reach out to Charles a few weeks after the confrontation. He wanted to apologize for his role in the destruction of their friendship, but Charles repeatedly ignored his attempts, determined to keep that painful chapter of his life closed. Their story serves as a sobering reminder of the dangers of disloyalty. Each character bore emotional scars as they tried to move on, grappling with the mistakes made in the heat of unrestrained passion. Laura eventually realized that she needed to take full responsibility for her actions. She couldn't continue living in the shadow of guilt or waiting for forgiveness from others. It was time for her to seek inner forgiveness before even considering the possibility of rebuilding any lost relationship. This narrative of deep emotional betrayals ends as a tale of learning and personal growth. Each character carries their scars, but it's also a story of overcoming mistakes and finding new paths forward. Laura chose to restart her life. She took on new personal projects and rediscovered hobbies she had neglected for years, finding herself outside the expectations of others or the pressures of her previous marriage. Charles also found new paths, opening himself up to experiences he had never dared to explore before due to family responsibilities or the stresses of daily life. He traveled to places he had always dreamed of, rediscovering his own identity away from the shadows of the painful betrayal he had endured. And so, each of them continued on their separate journeys, learning valuable lessons about true love versus fleeting desire as they dealt with the consequences of choices made in their recent past. Each sought to rebuild their lives, striving for transformation and personal growth through the difficult yet necessary process of healing.